Guys, good afternoon from the beautiful park Družby Narodov here in the center of Minsk, well, just outside the center of Minsk. And as you can see all around me, we have a winter wonderland. Yeah, such beautiful weather we've had here so far over the last week or so when the snow came. And as you can see in front of me, it's quite beautiful. Very appropriate for this time of the year. Yeah, I love this time of the year. Snow, ice everywhere, and we're coming into Christmas and the new year. But it is absolutely freezing here at the moment. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the weather, although it has been absolutely amazing so far, and long may it continue. So, while I was looking through the library on the channel, the extensive library that I have of all the videos that I've made over the last 3 years or so, one video popped up, and it was a video that I made way back in February 2020. That's already 3 years ago. And that of course got me thinking. A lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. A lot has happened since then. So I decided to give you an update on my thoughts. Because if I remember correctly, I left that video on an optimistic thought. So I think it's time for an update. And this is in foot or in light of a number of questions that I got from you guys at that moment in time. Do you want to stay? Do you want to go back home to Ireland? And the answer to that is no. I don't think I'm actually ready to go back home to Ireland. I read a lot of the news from back home. I read a lot of the news of young people back home who become disillusioned. And especially the fact that a lot of young people, young, married, working people, are contemplating emigrating because they feel that they've been priced out of the markets in terms of the buyer's market and also the rental market. Because if you know anything, the jobs in Ireland, the place to be in Ireland is in Dublin. And I read a lot about Dublin as well, the place that I lived and worked in for 8 years before I came here. And I read about how it's become unlivable in many ways. The cost of living, rents, mortgages, and also it's become a lot more dangerous. Streets and places where I used to frequent on a regular basis, even in the evening, well, you can no longer do so after a certain time in the day, and that makes me quite sad. Let's take a look at what's been going on. Let's take a look at the wider picture of what's been happening here. That ties into the overall topic of the video. When I made that video about 3 years ago, nobody could have imagined the events that could have overtaken what has happened in this neck of the woods. It's been quite a tumultuous time, because I believe right now we're living through an epoch. And a very momentous and eventful epoch that has only occurred 3 or 4 times over the last 400 to 500 years. And what we have right now is that we have a superpower, a declining superpower. And as it's declining, it's flailing, it's lashing out, and it's creating a lot of instability around the world, and of course in Europe as well. And a very similar picture emerged in Europe in the late 16th to early 17th century, when another power called Spain was declining, and it was lashing out, and it created a lot of instability around Europe. And this led, of course, to the 30 Years' War, a destructive war that engulfed the European continent for a period of, well, for 30 years between 1618 and 1648. And the result of that war was the treaty, or the Peace of Westphalia. A similar event happened in the late 19th, early 20th century, when the British Empire was also declining. And the British, they even recognized that themselves, and that's from a speech that the Minister of the Commonwealth, the Minister of the Empire and Colonies, Joseph Chamberlain, of course the father of Neville Chamberlain, made around the time of the Boer War, in which he was primarily responsible for, in which he said that Britain was an overburdened giant. And the decline of the British Empire brought about instability, brought about the arms race between Britain and Germany, and it led up to the First World War. And 20 years after the end of the First World War, we had the disaster of the Second World War. And that brought about a period of peace, pretty much like what the Treaty of Westphalia brought about in Europe for a century and a half, up to the Napoleonic Wars. And it's the same situation that we're having today, that we're having a hyperpower that has dominated the globe, that is the United States, on the decline. And as it's going down, it's lashing out, and it's making things a lot unstable. It's picking fights with what it perceives as its rivals, Russia and China, in the same way that the Spanish did with France and England, and with the British Empire, with Germany, and so on. Now, in that previous video that I did, I ended it on a very, very optimistic note, and I still believe that to this day. Right now, as you know, we're going through a very turbulent period in history, an epoch, if you can call it. And it is a time of economic and political instability in Europe and around the world. We're seeing in Europe where we have economic instability by a rise in prices and commodities. We're seeing a deindustrialization in Germany. And the next decade or so is going to be very turbulent, very troublesome in Europe. But I do believe that after this moment in history, after this period of time, we will see peace and stability restored. And I'm very optimistic on that. And one of the central tenets, theme of that video that I made was in relation to Belarus, in which I said that change will come here as the older generation die off and as the young people come through. And I still believe that to be the case. Same back home. There will be a period of stability. It's always at these moments in history, for example, like after the Treaty of Westphalia, like post-1945 and so on, we get a prolonged period of peace. And I believe that's what's going to happen. I'm an optimist, I'm the eternal optimist. And I say this to my Belarusian subscribers. I say this to you guys: learn your history, learn your culture. It's very unique, it's very rich. Explore it. Be proud of who you are and what you are. People back home, if you have the chance to travel, do so. Explore the world, because we only live once and once only, and that's it. So, on a optimistic note, in this time of troubles, I will leave you from the very beautiful park here in the center of Minsk. Hard to believe, in the center of Minsk we have this beautiful, beautiful amenity. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. It's very, very cold here at the moment, and I think we're going to have a bit more snow on the way. So, from a snowy Minsk, I say each and every one of you, do powodzenia i Kalilaska. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.